Thank you, Christian. It's great to be back here. I've not missed one of these since they began. I applaud the vision and the leadership and the management and the dedication and the perseverance of Abdulaziz Sager. We're all in his debt. I know of no more formidable research group, think tank if you want, that has made a difference in such a relatively short time, both here in Cambridge, working with Dr. Abdullah Bahboob, Christian in Geneva, and Mustafa Alani, and others to have an extraordinary output, and Oscar Gonzalez as well. Our speaker has spoken here before, so for those who've been here previously, he's no stranger. But he has a background and he has a set of qualifications and credentials that few, if any, in my life have had with regard to an international organization. United Nations, Dag Hammarskjöld, more recently Kofi Annan, in Washington, D.C., representing the League of Arab States for years, the late, great Clovis Maxoud, and others. But they're all fingers full, not even a handful. But this one belongs in that handful. Why? He's a native of Bahrain, born in the island of Maharik. 1973, he finished his studies at Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst in the UK, and came back and immediately entered into service with the Royal Bahraini Air Defense, and then the Royal Bahraini Defense Forces themselves. And for those of you who've never been in the military, I have and others have here, there's a world of difference between air defense and the air arm of a country's armed forces itself. He continued his education right up almost till the present, which is very unusual for somebody who is a military person to obtain her or his doctorate of philosophy, PhD. In my country, you can count them on the fingers of one hand. At the present time, David Petraeus is the only one that comes to mind. But from graduation and service in the Royal Bahraini Air Defense and Air Force, he then obtained an aeronautical degree from Perth in Scotland. Came back, continued with his assignments, moved up into leadership positions, management positions, administrative positions, planning positions, strategic planning positions inside Bahrain's armed forces. And he became assistant to the Chief of Staff and Chief of Staff for operations and planning. And so here's someone who combines strategy with tactics, at the same time realizing the importance of education, training, and experience, and working with others, and liaising with others, and building on the experience of others. From his roughly 30 years in the Ministry of Defense in Bahrain, he then was switched over to the Ministry of Interior. Search most constitutions in the world and you will find these are the two first functions: to secure a people, as Mustafa Alani was saying. We overuse the word and we underuse the word. We overuse it in speech, we underuse it in terms of concepts and thinking and procedures. Who here would opt to be insecure? When you're insecure, you cannot plan, you cannot predict, you cannot anticipate, you cannot prepare. So security is uppermost. Security, too, is directly linked to stability. It doesn't always produce stability, and it doesn't always have to have stability. During the 8-year Iran-Iraq war, with death on the doorstep of the 6 GCC countries, you had regional instability, but domestic safety, security, protection, all the way from Kuwait to Oman. So you can't have one but the other, and not the other. But usually the two are seen as interconnected, and that has been the case in the GCC's vision, at least in its strategic planning from the beginning to the present. In the Ministry of Interior, he became the Chief of Security. I know something about this. My father was this in a city in the American South. And such a position is seldom popular. It's a position that always has complaints from parents and from young people and who run afoul of the law. And it can easily kill a career if one does not have the requisite courage and conviction and persistence and perseverance as he had. Because it's not just the police, it's the fire department. It's the special forces. It's also the civil defense. He specialized in this up until his appointment on the 1st of January 2011 as the follow-on Secretary General of the Gulf Cooperation Council. But before that, another 10 years in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, almost 10 years, yes, 10 years, where he had to adopt a different set of tools, greater empathy with the peoples and cultures and sensitivities of countries other than his own, and to liaise with them and to stand up for his own country, but at the same time, Bahrain being a key member of the GCC, 5 other countries as well. That he excelled there is what propelled him also into the GCC seat there. Along the way, if you can believe it, he found time to be a professor. He was on the faculty of the University of Maryland's campus in Bahrain. He was on the faculty of the University of Bahrain. He was on the faculty of the Arab Gulf University in Bahrain, teaching such things as quantifiable statistics and mathematics, building on his degree in aeronautical engineering at the Naval Postgraduate School. He also further went for leadership development training as though he needed it, but the furtherance of it he opted to do at Harvard's famous International Leadership Development School for developing nations. So here we have someone who's not the ordinary Secretary General. He's not the ordinary soldier, military man, officer. He's not the ordinary top cop there, looking out for the domestic security of a country as beleaguered, besieged, and challenged as more often than not Bahrain is of the 6 GCC countries there. In addition, focusing on leadership, education, training, development, planning, logistics, in which he has another master's in that from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and the Air Force Institute of Technology. And not all leaders do what he does in this regard in terms of sharing with others that which he has learned and try to help others benefit from their mistakes. But he has worked with the youth of his country in the Arab Gulf University to learn from the mistakes of his and my elders and to profit from the lessons that he has shared. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Dr. Abdullatif bin Rashid Al-Zayani, Lieutenant General.